topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
You're listening to the ASQ podcast for a transformational approach to life and leadership, blending soul wisdom with modern insight to create outer impact.
All right. Yeah. Well, welcome, Soul Questers, to another episode of the ASQ Podcast Live.
Yes, welcome.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited about today's guest.
Yeah, this is our last guest of the year, by the way.
Oh, it's so crazy.
Yeah, it's a very
going out with
guest.
A bang.
We are going out with a bang. You know, we are. And, you know, I'm excited about this guest, and I'm going to have you introduce her in a moment. But because we talk about the coherence quest and we talk about all those different drives and what emotions signified, I think this is a person that really understands that and embodies the impact that those things have on us, but it also understands how to shift it so that we could impact culture properly in a positive way. I'm excited about this conversation.
I am too. So
without any further ado, why don't you introduce our guest for today?
Right. So today we're honored to sit with a powerhouse in the global ACEs movement, Cendie K. Stanford. She's the founder and chief visionary officer of Adverse Childhood Experiences Matter, a leader who blends academic excellence, lived experience, and deep purpose to help the world rethink adversity, healing, and post-traumatic growth. Cendie isn't just raising awareness, she's building the antidotes and creating spaces where purpose, resilience, and transformation become possible. We're excited to explore her journey, her mission, and the movement she's leading. Please help us welcome Cendie to the ASQ podcast. I was going to say her whole name again. Hey,
I'll take it.
Okay, good. Pretty proud of
Hi.
How are you?
Excellent. It's a great start of the week, and oh my goodness, I realized on December the 11th, which was just 4 days ago, I was having a conversation with two of the other hosts where you and I first met, and we realized it's been 60 days.
Oh, wow.
It's been because it was 10/11/2025.
Oh God, that's right.
Right. And it's been 60 days since we've had a chance to see each other's face. I'm thinking because I didn't make it to the Erica's event. So it's been 60 days. Well, a little bit more than 60 days now, but happy to be here. I am rested and rejuvenated. I am practicing an antidote right now.
Right.
Yeah, I'm practicing an antidote. And after that Goliath that we defeated, I wanted to practice what I preached. So I decided to take some time for me. And oh my goodness, I almost didn't do work for 7 weeks, and it felt really good. It felt good, but also almost like I didn't step all the way out, but I had a healthy relationship with just relaxing and being bored. I have been following a conversation about the importance of allowing ourselves to be bored. So that's how I am. And most importantly, I am sleeping very well.
Awesome. Awesome. You know, those are things that are under appreciated in our culture, right? The hustle culture, you know, the importance of sleeping and the importance of just being bored,
I love that.
To contemplate and just to be. So that's awesome to hear that.
Yeah, I love that. It makes me feel better about the fact that we're taking the last 2 weeks off in December, and hopefully I will be bored too.
Be bored. We should start a campaign. Be bored.
Yes, we should. We should.
Well, maybe it's like be bored a different kind, because I think I don't want to get too far into the podcast, but sometimes we can get bored, and then we do things that may be unhelpful. Anyhow, be bored. Yeah. Maybe there's a campaign there.
Yeah, we'll talk after. We'll talk.
Yeah, afterwards. Talk after the talk.
This leads us into the conversation. Like, how do you come about ACEs and recognizing first ACEs within yourself, and how did you mentioned some of the antidotes that you are actually putting into practice right now, but Talk to us about what led you into this individual personal conversation about ACEs and how it manifested in your life.
There were so many stones along the journey that led me here. But the one that stands out the most is actually the very first time I ever heard of the acronym ACEs.
Mhm.
It was at a copy machine. And I'm not sure. And if I'm repeating this story for the second time, I do apologize because I know you and I have talked before, but
Mhm.
at a copy machine in 2020, I'm going to say February of 2020, somebody left the inventory, the questionnaire, just one sheet of paper on the copy machine. It was my turn to go up next. And I moved that paper off and I went to make my copies of whatever I was copying at the time. And I looked at that one piece of paper as I moved it off, and it was a very personal, some personal questions on there. And it was like 10 of them
Mm.
at the time. So long and short, I'll fast forward. I like to tell people that this conversation found me.
Mm.
I just
Wow.
happened to be at work late that night. Now, granted, I'm 20 years in like public school education experience. So I've heard about trauma informed work and, um, the disadvantaged kid and No Child Left Behind. I went through that period, but I had never heard of trauma explained the way that that questionnaire explained it. And I just happened to be at
Mm.
a copy machine where an
Wow.
office of about 30 people at any given point in time could have gotten there before me. So it found
Mhm.
me. And from there, it made me teleport back to some of my childhood experiences that started to explain to me in 2020. Obviously, COVID's happening, right?
Mhm.
When I really started digging deep into this questionnaire, because I'm an academic, as my bio says, like I just love to consume knowledge. So I went down this rabbit hole or up it, if you will. And I was like, those are some very personal questions to be asking somebody you just met.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what
So
is the
true.
paper on the machine?
Yeah.
Landing the plane here, I started to dig into it and I realized that copy machine paper was my entire childhood story.
Mm.
So I was in the right place at the right time, found this questionnaire with these big old bold black letters on this black and white paper. And across it, it said Adverse Childhood Experience Survey, ACEs
Mhm.
survey. I took it and I aced it. I got
Mm.
every single question right. And that is a
Wow.
test, my people, that you do not want to ace. Like our job at my organization as the chief visionary officer is to make sure more people fail that test
Yep.
moving forward while we're here on earth and even beyond us, because that's the one test we want to make sure we don't do well at. And as my organization, as we get into this, I wanted to create opportunities and programs where those of us who have that aha moment
Mhm.
of, ooh, that's about me, we
Mm.
have a place to go and begin to process and heal and understand our childhood experiences. And even though we're out of childhood, like what are some things that we could be doing about it now? So not only we get the help that we didn't get back then, but we then start to use that help to repair our relationships with our children if we have them, parents if they're
Yeah.
still alive, and then leaving that footprint for the next generation.
Mm.
Wow. That's impactful. What was it that in that moment shifted you into realizing I'm onto something, something needs to change after you aced this survey? Like what was it in your head that prompted you or pushed you forward into doing what
Yeah.
you were doing or what you are doing now? I don't want to talk too much about that part, but I'm just curious as to what frame you were in at that point when you realized I aced this survey.
Being forced into a sabbatical
Mm.
in 2020. So I'm going to
Yeah.
say less, right?
Mhm.
Having that one-on-one time with self
Yeah.
was a big one. And then all of these things start to bubble up. I'm unemployed, but I've got several degrees and a nice impressive resume, and I think I do right by the people for the most part. What is going on? So I was really forced to get in the books of wanting to understand this whole thing about emotional intelligence.
Mm.
So I
Nice.
think that started it. And when I realized that emotional intelligence, as they call it now, scientifically, I guess, right?
Mhm.
When I saw that there was a connection between that, no matter how many degrees you have, no matter how much you've done, right? When I saw the connection there, and then the spiritual connection in the, it was like the Holy Trinity, if you will. And for example, the tangible thing that happened was my relationship with my daughter and my mom became better as a result
Awesome.
of me having to go back and like apologize for that version of me that was traumatized and was responding from a traumatized place, not intending to be what I now learned is gaslighting, or not intending to back then that was a different spirit, I guess, that was a different person. And so that moment of, realizing that my relationship with my daughter and my mom got better as a result of me finding that paper on the copy machine, it just all started to make sense. So other
Yeah.
little pebbles along the journey.
Yeah. One of the things that we talked about here in the Soul's Quest is this idea of polarities, right? Everything is polar. Everything has two sides of a coin. Recognizing, you mentioned you recognized, the gaslighting aspect in that aspect. What were some of the positive things about yourself that you discovered by exploring ACEs?
The resilience was a huge one. Like thinking about, even if I aced that survey, which at the time it was 10 questions, and then later I learned that there were some additional questions that they added on to it. I got even more of them. What it taught me is that, wow, the way that the science wrote this, the likelihood of you making it out was like slim to none,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
when you look at the bell curve or the ratio of people, let's just say in your immediate family that have overcome that hump even just a little bit,
Mhm.
you are an anomaly. I like to use big words because it makes me sound smart, but basically you are an anomaly, right? And so what it taught me about myself is, since this hero's journey started when my mom and dad met.
Mm.
My dad came with me already in tow, if you will, and my mom's
Mhm.
egg was already there. So it started thin,
Yeah.
like the fact that that relationship with them would not work out because of their childhood traumas that had not been addressed.
Yeah.
But something put them together to create me. I survived that little journey there. And then I survived all of those childhood experiences.
Mhm.
So it pushed me to say, wow, that was the first part of the test. This is the next part. Right. And so just naturally, I think, even though I wouldn't consider myself to be a very competitive person, to me, I like the challenge of trying to figure out what's next. That's a personal testimony for me, what ACEs showed me. And it also showed me, here's the key, if nobody hears anything else, there were two adult individuals in my life during my last year of high school that poured into me after a very
Mm.
tragic thing that had happened in our family. And those two individuals, till this day, I refer to them as one of the outside catalysts that told me I could be something.
Yeah.
And one was a teacher, and then one was a family friend. And it was a particular teacher that I would call my positive childhood experience, which is a legit real thing. It's like a
Mhm.
real survey. That's the polarity version, or the
Mhm.
opposite version of the ACE survey. There's a positive one. And
Yeah.
when I took that positive one, it showed me that some of the things that we could do for those of us that are born into those adversities, we can make sure that these positive things are happening in conjunction, right? Because
Yeah.
that would make a difference. And so that particular teacher taking me on a college tour 4 months before I was to graduate high school showed me that not only could I apply to get in college, I still had time. I would get my own dorm room. I would have I would have a shared bathroom basically, but it would be cleaner than what I was coming from. And so he encouraged me to go through with that. So it was adults that weren't in my immediate family because, again, you know, the mirror, like they were an image of what I would become if I'd have stayed. And so it was, again, the hero's journey started with my mom and dad meeting, and then being abandoned by that dad, adverse childhood experience, right? Being raised by a single mom in poverty, another adverse childhood experience. So all of those adverse childhood experiences along the way, I was born to be a hero. I basically have gamified it in my mind. Like, if this is the way it's just going to be, I'm going to gamify it. And so I try to do like the next thing, you know,
I love it.
Because it does feel like a game. Like it doesn't feel real that children have to go through that. It doesn't even feel real that we have to tell ourselves and other parents and adults not to do certain things, but this is our reality. So
it is. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. I love that you had these people that poured into you. Was that moment when you realized, oh, I can go to college, I can do this? Was that the moment that you realized that you were limitless, so to speak, with your purpose and what it is that you're showing up for today? Or was that later on? Or was that just the beginning of it?
You know, I'm going to say it had, I don't honestly think I'm there, right? I think I continue to demonstrate that, oh, you can dream up whatever you want, you know, write the vision, make it plain. You can pretty much have whatever you want. So I do feel like there are limits along the way, but I don't feel like, I don't know. I just get up wanting to do it every day. So I don't know. Is that limitless? I don't know, but I just get up wanting to do it every day. But a part of me wants to say, I found it in my adulthood, but I didn't find it until I found my purpose. And I was like, is that limitless? And so every morning I'm waking up like, is that limitless? And then like having people randomly from around the world donate to your nonprofit that you've never met. I'm like, is that a part of the limitless journey? So I'm still learning. I don't want to own that yet, but great question.
Yeah.
Great question.
You know,
something to think about, right?
Something to think about.
We're going to take a quick break, right? But when we come back, part of the hero's journey is returned, right? With the elixir of life. So when we come back, I want to talk about your organization, the work that you are doing, but I also want to get into the synchronicities, right? Those hidden hands that come out of nowhere to push you in that direction of your dream. So let's take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with Cendie after this.
You're listening to the ASQ podcast, a transformational approach to life and leadership. Too many of us chase clarity but feel scattered. What if your challenge isn't failure, but the threshold before expansion? Each month, we gather live for a transformational webinar where contraction becomes coherence. Register today and receive your Soul GPS journal. Begin your journey within. Scan the QR code or visit asqempowerment.com.
At ASQ, we need one platform to do it all. Funnels, emails, forms, and automations. That's why we run our entire ecosystem on Go High Level. It is the tool that saves us time and builds real connections with our audience. We believe in it, we use it, and we recommend it. Start your free trial through our affiliate link today.
We don't just find podcast guests, we find aligned voices. That's why ASQ uses Podmatch to connect with leaders and creators worldwide. It's how we've built relationships that shape life and culture. If you want meaningful conversations, join through our affiliate link today or scan the QR code. Find your match on Podmatch.
Leaders are burning out. Teams are disengaged. Cultures are fragmenting. ASQ Empowerment transforms leadership and culture from the inside out. Our Coherence Quest bridges ancient wisdom with modern neuroscience, helping organizations align, adapt, and thrive. Start with an organizational snapshot assessment. So, visit now at asqempowerment.com and schedule your briefing today. ASQ Empowerment. Lead your life. Shape your culture. Begin within.
Welcome back. You're listening to the ASQ podcast with Dr. Jesse and Omar Ferreira, a transformational approach to life and leadership. All right.
All right. Did we lose Cendie?
Did we lose her? Maybe.
Oh no, there she is. There she is.
Here's the magic fingers.
Yeah, technology is always like that.
Right.
Before we talk about that elixir of life, coming back and creating what you have, let's spend a moment on the synchronicities. You mentioned it a couple of times here and there. That just being at a copy machine and seeing this piece of paper with words in it. Now you're seeing people out of nowhere coming and supporting your work. Can you talk about that hand in hand from, what, quote unquote, that spiritual perspective that many of us don't want to dive into, but I love getting into that.
Stir in the pot.
Let's stir the pot. Why not?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's stir the pot. I got just one. And I hope this is the line because it's a true story.
Mm-hmm.
I realize when we talk about stirring the pot, that big R word, religion, that you really, for me, I really got curious about God at that time. And so a part of my hero's journey was I remember busting open that book and starting at chapter Genesis, because that was what I grew up around. When people were going through adversity, they would pick up the good book and they would pray about it. And then they would go gamble their money off a couple hours later. But they did tell us to please pray and make sure that y'all ask for this for us to win, So just a lot of contradictions in a child's
Stirring
head.
the pot.
Yes.
Talking about stirring the pot, right?
I love
I
it.
love it.
Yeah. So I will say that I had to go back and figure out who this God guy was for myself. And so I picked up the book in 2020. I even had a Bible study retreat along this path in my journey where one of my friends flew up and we woke up every morning and we started off with revelations. I want to understand this myself. So it started there without going down too much of what that looked like. And I had this awakening. And the one thing that I'll say is, this is some good content, but do we need a book to be told to be nice and compassionate to people? If we didn't have this book, how would people behave? So from that journey, I discovered that God was within me, which is very, very controversial. I said it to my mom and I found it in scripture to support it. And she nearly jumped out the car. And she was like, no, I'm not, So when I started to see my journey as a part of my higher calling, going back and trying to understand it myself, I knew that was going to be a big part of impacting the culture, because the culture that I came from did not accept people for who they were. They accepted people for who they presented themselves as. And I was like, that just don't seem in alignment with the instructions from the book. The instructions from the book said, don't do that. And so why again are we so my little Amelia Bedelia brain here needed to get her. Tell me you remember who she is. So my Amelia Bedelia brain, what I realized from not just discovering that moment with, again, the thing of ACEs matter, even the namesake was given to me in a dream. I realized that what people had in common, regardless to which God they believed in, the thing that they had most in common was their childhood experiences, especially if they were traumatic. And nobody was talking about it.
Yeah. So
what this does for the culture was oh, okay, you're an atheist. We don't need to bring that up. But if you pray, we're going to have that moment here for you, right? Oh, you Buddha is your thing? Okay, no problem. You were here to heal the trauma that is stored in your system. Because I didn't sign up for that culture of quietness. I just was born into it,
Exactly.
So that's what I think about when I think about the culture and, just a part of, this divinely vision of calling people to the table and to the carpet to start talking about our experiences openly, but not to revisit the past so much, to acknowledge they exist, but to acknowledge the antidotes also exist. Now let's make these antidotes accessible to all of the hundreds of millions of people who have been through it and who will continue to go through it until, other, powers get their stuff together. to really treat communities better. In the meantime, let's do it here locally ourselves.
Yeah.
Love that.
One of the things that you do that I appreciate is the fact of that you talk about not just the individual and the antidotes to the individual, but also the collective antidotes of a society, right? Because there is collective ACEs when it comes to our society. Can you speak of the important transitional process of the individual overcoming their ACEs, consequently impacting everything around them, and then consequently impacting culture? Because those things, they're like the micro and the macro of life, and it needs to go. Like, can you talk about the importance of those?
How much time we got? How much
We
time
have we got 20 minutes. Go ahead. Actually, we got 15
Well,
minutes. Yeah, so go ahead.
what's
Wait, I
coming
have
up
another
for me?
question.
Yeah.
Well, no, because what I'm thinking about is, how fast rumors spread. How do
Mm-hmm.
rumors get started? They started by the people, something like that. I don't remember the
Yep.
lyrics, but
Started by the jealous people. Don't get me
people
started. That's my
and
time. Okay?
right. So we need to
Yes.
start a rumor.
Mm.
Like, ooh, if you got to go do it. No, but on the serious note, what I've come to learn, as I do say this, I want to give thanks to all of the well-educated people in this space that paved the way for me as a civilian to walk in here with my other master's degrees in other areas, learn it for myself and be like, oh, I'm gonna switch careers. I want to do this way now, So I want to pave the way for the psychoeducators, the therapists, everybody in that has something to do with publishing this information. Taking that information and making it accessible to people in a way that lets them know that they are a part of this journey, this story, because right now you paid for this study to be done. They just put it on the shelf when they were finished with it. Your taxpayer dollars makes all of these. So why not get it into the hands of people? And what I've learned is that when you tell one person, that one person is likely going to tell 5 or more other people about it.
Yeah.
Right? And then if that pattern continues, right? Those 5 to 10 people that first person told, they go tell other people. And now all of a sudden you've got something spreading, right? And so the idea is to start this rumor to get people into the room, because I have been so blessed to have very few people that have been in this space to really hear about it from a lived experience person's perspective.
Yeah.
Are very relatable. So not just me being relatable to the population of people that expose it, but finding other relatables like you guys did, right? Bringing in relatable people who we have moved on. We are publishing books, we're doing podcasts, but yeah, our experiences are still there. You can too, right? So bringing in relatable people so that it feels more welcoming. And then I guarantee you, word of mouth will bring those people back into the building the next time around, because they will see themselves in you, Omar, and in you, Dr. Jesse, and me, right?
Yes.
Not to say, the Netflix and the celebrities and the Golden Globe people aren't cool when they put the stories in the television shows and in the media, right? Because the ACEs are all around us. The stories are all around us, but it's a difference between seeing traumatized on the big screen that you go pay for to see, and then having to face your own in a room full of other people that live next door to you or work with you. So it begins to not just influence the culture of where we wake up in, the zip codes. We now have people talking about this at work.
Yep.
Which is how I get paid, by the way. So people hear about the conversation and sometimes they'll take it back to their workplaces and they're like, hey, we should train our staff on this. And so imagine now that one person just being in the right place at the right time, like the copy machine idea. That person hears about it and then took it back to their church congregation. So now I have 25 people in the room learning about ACEs when it was only one person that showed up to the watch party. Does that make sense?
Yep. That makes perfect sense.
Absolutely.
That makes perfect sense.
I have a question. So when I attended the event in October, with the last time we saw each other, of course I have ACEs, right? But I didn't have a name to put to the ACEs. Even when Omar was getting, revved up to the workshop and was able to participate in the event, I still hadn't done it. I don't know if I was in denial or what, because I acknowledged that things have happened to me, right? So I went ahead and did the little survey, which is now I think 7 questions or 8 questions.
No, it's the longer one.
Still, it was longer. Okay. Well, I did it and I was like, oh damn, I got like 7. Is that what? And so I listened and I even made a reel on it because it changed me, that experience. I was like, oh my God, I have a name for these experiences now, right? So shifting to that, I have a question that I actually wrote down because I wanted to make sure I asked it correctly. What do you believe changes in culture and in society, right? When we move from just understanding trauma to actively cultivating post-traumatic growth? Because I'm all about like that, not sitting in that space, but just growing and what are your thoughts on that?
I'm hearing first, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Testimony. Thank you for that testimony.
Thank you. Yeah.
I want to first make a note of many people that I meet do exactly what you did. Like they heard about it. I even had a board member that had been a board member for like 18 months and was just like, yeah, I know I got them, but I just don't want to know the number. That person goes, I'm not really a numbers person. So I just didn't really want to like take it.
That's so funny. Okay. I resisted the temptation to take it initially. Yeah. It was the second part of the day that I was like, you know what, let me just take this darn thing, and I was just like, what?
Yeah. So to that point, I don't know if you guys can, travel back in time in the 80s when HIV was a big thing. And then of course, everybody was worried about getting tested. Had an opportunity to speak for an organization that focuses on HIV prevention and made the comparison that for some people, this is like not wanting to know your status because now you have a starting point. Awareness in itself is an intervention. And so just like any human thing that we struggle with in reality, or that's an opportunity on the game board for us in reality, when you become aware of something, you got to take the red pill or the blue pill in that moment. So sometimes it's better just as, not associated with a number, because now you have a metric that you can start from, right? Let's say I got 10 and I haven't had children yet. Now my goal is going to date so that when I do procreate, that my children leave home with less than 10 or whatever that number is for you. So that's that. And when it comes to, I think your question was about, how does the mind change in the culture? Can you give me a little bit more about what you wanted with the culture question? Sorry, I got off script.
I'll read you the question because I just really love this question. It's, what do you believe changes in culture when we move from just understanding trauma to actively cultivating post-traumatic growth? Because we can understand it all day long, but what happens when we actually move to that position of growing from it?
You will feel it. You will feel it. You will feel the energy in the zip code. You will feel the energy in the office shift. You will feel the energy in the home shift when you start to understand and really appreciate how your experiences, again, are not an excuse. They are a data point of where you can start. If you want to actually, let's say in the home, work on your love language relationship with your intimate partner, right? Now that both of you guys know you came into the relationship trauma bonding, and now there's 2 kids involved. It's too late to go back. It's too late to turn back now. You do what a couple, honestly, like there was a couple who they're still using their platform to spread awareness. And this gentleman, just if I can give a quick testimony, this couple, African-American couple down South Florida, husband was just recently released from prison. There was some, emotional violence in the home, 2 boys, and it was some stuff going on. But when they learned about mirror work through a workshop where ACEs gets mentioned, right? The 2 of them realized they were looking at each other in the mirror, and they immediately got into therapy counseling as a couple, right? And then they immediately started recognize how that was going to impact the 2 young men that were witnessing that. But it was very normalized for the culture, right? That was how they both grew up. So kids don't remember nothing. But when you get that dose of education and you realize that, oh my goodness, this is a big one for me. I pass this down to my child too.
Yeah.
Yep.
It happened to me too. And now the other Me Too movement, it also happened to my daughter too. And so, if this was another Me Too movement, you start to realize that your culture needs to embrace this conversation so that, like I said at the summit, we don't take our hurt to the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because them secrets will, them secrets will sprout up in those roots. And now you got cousins and uncles repeating the same patterns, and aunts and, and so not taking our hurt to the dirt. I hope this is one thing that our platform does for organizations is giving people the language, right? It's not a foreign concept. It's a scientifically studied concept. And $300 million later, we have spent in tax dollars investigating how bad do these experiences really mess up people. Like, they are investing money watching this. And so let's do something with it.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Let's talk about men.
Let's talk about men, baby. Let's talk about men, baby. I love it.
Hey,
all the good things and the bad things they may be. Let's talk about.
So
love it.
A couple of weeks ago, we had a local friend here from Tykes and Teens, Jay Biscani. I asked him to put a presentation together about the studies of men and ACEs, right? And he's a therapist, and he looked and he did the research, and the only work that he was able to find was on incarcerated men on ACEs, and one of the data points that he brought up was the fact that 7 out of 10 men in prison, prior to being in prison, were sexually abused. So let's talk about men and ACEs, because as a person that works with men on a regular basis, opening that doorway is very challenging because of the cultural barriers that we have put on men. So what can you give us some insight on the work that needs to be done with men, and what are the things that you have found out about working with men and ACEs?
I'm going to start with that last question. One of the things that I have found out since doing the conversation on ACEs is that sexual abuse against men is common, or like young boys is common. And the other thing that blew my mind, because again, I wasn't in this conversation, so why would I want that data point? When I got in, I was like, ooh, that really happens. So now I've got these men who were once strangers now opening up, telling their story for the first time. You probably know this, right? So I found out that there were men suffering in silence from these childhood experiences. And one of the most alarming and gut-wrenching, probably more common than not, stories that a lot of these young boys, before the word sex trafficking existed, before that name, before it earned its name, were being trafficked. That word, that big old word. I like to use big words that I can pronounce. I can't use that one today.
Oh, you're funny. Traffic.
Mom can't pay bills, or a child overheard mom saying she didn't have enough to pay rent, and here you got Uncle so-and-so saying I can right, in exchange for. So like, boys being used for their body parts, sometimes unknowingly, and sometimes they've been, manipulated by these older men in exchange for cash. So growing up in poverty, one of the data points that came up is that if you were a young lady growing up in poverty, the chances of you leaving home 10 ACEs doubles. I mean, like extra. And then if you were a boy growing up in poverty, you're going to have at least 4 of those categories. And guess what? One of the most popular categories of those 4, sexual abuse, all because you're born in poverty. People with poverty sometimes maybe not have the language talk about what happened. Of course, I see things changing now, but in terms of the one about the culture you asked, what was the question? Remind me about, because I got it really into that. What was the one about the culture that you asked?
So the men are conditioned to put these certain barriers when it comes to expressing emotions, to be able to express what's the things that are challenging, and instead they suppress them and they hold them inside.
Something I wanted to mention in relationship to what I've seen work and I'd like to see more of when it comes to men. And this came up. I hope this will be a good example because I want to point this out. I follow a very prominent gentleman on LinkedIn, and this gentleman has been in the political space, African-American gentleman. He gave a really honest testimony about going and doing the tests with the doctor where they have to put the finger in the place and like make you cough, and everybody should do it. But okay, that test that nobody wants to do, the men don't want it because it's like, what's the name of the test?
Prostate exam. Yeah, prostate exam.
To see this gentleman who I've seen in person, very, let's say of the culture, whatever that is, right? Depending on where you come from, to see him openly talk about doing that and getting comfortable with the whole masculine thing of allowing somebody to do that. I'm going to land the plane to say, well, what if we could get more medical doctors in on this conversation where while we have you here or have you, not to hurt you twice, but, here's something to think about, right? And so long and short, I want to get creative with who all knows about this, especially when we get men to come to these conversations or do something that they would normally do because it just wasn't manly or a part of the culture. I think we should be working on getting more people who are having these conversations like yourself with men educated on ACEs so that they then can use that to influence how they are relationshiping, because it definitely helps if you're in an active relationship. But most importantly, if you have not found that one, to know this information before you started searching for your one. Let's take this into account.
Yeah.
Because this may save you a lot of time and headache with somebody who may not understand your story.
Yeah, that's a big one. Wow. Yeah. I love it.
No, this is it's been an amazing conversation, and I know that you will continue to do that. And so as we begin to wind down and come to the end of our conversation, talk to us about ACEs Matter, and talk to us about how people connect with you. Talk to us about your messaging. How do they find you, and
how do they get involved?
We need more volunteers because right now, thank you. You guys sounded amazing. And I've enjoyed this as well, too. So we could use a lot more adult volunteers who are super excited about spreading awareness. To get involved means to sign up on our newsletter, give us access to reach out to you. If you say you're going to volunteer, there's an option on that volunteer form or even following the newsletter form. We keep track of that because we are a 100% volunteer-led organization. So we're able to do what we do because we have people from the community volunteering for us until we hit that big moment where, is it Mackenzie Scott? I hear she's giving away all kind of crazy money until she finds us.
Yes, until she finds
that's not going to stop us from doing what we do. And so getting involved may be, hey, can you bring we're having a showing online on Zoom, and we'd like to try to get 20 people in the room to have this conversation. Maybe we're doing an event in your neighborhood, or maybe we need help at our events. Our biggest programming about ACEs Matter right now is focusing on the adults who need opportunities to heal from the trauma they were exposed to back then, right? And then obviously a part of the conversation includes prevention. But the whole pie is all about awareness and education. And so our piece of the pie right now is to spread awareness through creative ways, like our comedy show. We have a comedy show coming up in May where we have a cohort of people who have gone through lived experiences, and they get to actually take a part of their story and do something very bold. And they're going to get to do stand-up comedy for the first time. So awesome. It's an invite-only program, but it's a part of how we are getting creative with helping people be more open, because you just never know how your story might impact that one person who's in the right place at the right time. So May 27th is currently the date. You can find the tickets on Eventbrite, but that's just one of the things that we do. So other opportunities for people to volunteer, buy somebody else a ticket, or show up yourself.
Awesome.
Love it. That's incredible.
Cendie, thank you so much for taking the time, and thank you so much for the energy, the work, the honesty about your heroic journey, and then also coming back with the elixir of life.
I love it. Your transparency is awe-inspiring. Really, I love it.
You guys are a joy to be across the microphone from, so thank you.
Yeah, and we will see you soon.
See you soon. Bye, guys.
All right, Soul Questers. We'll be right back after this.
You're listening to the ASQ podcast, a transformational approach to life and leadership. Coming this December, A Soul's Quest, a transformational approach to life and leadership. A book that bridges science, wisdom, and lived experience so you can lead with coherence. Don't miss the launch. Join the waiting list today, scan the QR code, or visit asqempowerment.com.
At ASQ, we believe every creative deserves a safe space to share. That's why we use and proudly recommend Gnostic TV. It's where your content won't be silenced and your vision can flourish. Sign up through our affiliate link and be part of this Freedom Center platform. Create boldly on Gnostic TV. Across boardrooms, nonprofits, and communities, too many leaders are quietly burning out. They know what's not working, but not how to turn inertia into momentum. That's where I come in. I help leaders, fathers, and organizations move from quiet crisis into coherence, so cultures can thrive from the inside out. Book me today at asqempowerment.com and bring coherence to your next event.
Welcome back. You're listening to the ASQ podcast with Dr. Jesse and Omar Ferreira, a transformational approach to life and leadership.
All right, so we're back.
Welcome back. That was a good
that was very enlightening. I mean, again, the work of the ACEs it's very important to understand, right? Because it goes to in our PEP framework. We talked a lot about our experiences and being able to distill those experiences so that we could create a new approach to life, right? So the importance of understanding those deep internal drive systems that are not functionally properly.
Right.
That we need to investigate that. So what stood out for you in this conversation?
Oh my gosh. She said so many things that stood out for me. I really love her energy and how dynamic she is and her passion. I really love all that. But one of the things that stood out for me, actually I have 4 things, is the idea of the sabbatical. While hers was forced, it was forced for a lot of us. It's still that idea of separating yourself that we talk about with ASQ and reflecting and showing back up with a different quote unquote philosophy or approach, right? I also love that she had, the idea of mentors, that's a part of the hero's journey, having somebody that pours into you and how that shifted her perspective. Her, not taking the hurt to the dirt. I think that's really important. I think it's something that a lot of us, we don't want to deal with our stuff. We don't want to deal with these things. And when you do that, it's like she said, it sprouts new, seeds and growth that could be addressed. So not taking the hurt to the dirt. And then of course, I love that she said awareness is intervention.
It is.
And it absolutely is. And I mean, that's something again that we do with ASQ. So I love that she talks about that. Those are the things that I thought stood out for me.
Yeah. To me, I'm always curious about this idea of synchronicities and things happen that push you in a certain direction. The mystery of that, that's always intriguing for me. Because when we're having all these conversations constantly, and this shift, this little push in one direction, that always intrigues me. How life, even though we know so much, kind of like how often it veers us in a certain direction by just those little moments that are out of our control, so to speak, right? The second part that really stood out for me is questioning culture. Right. Questioning what has been given to us, the fact that let me read this book from beginning to end. Let me understand what it is saying. Let me get it. Because that right there, questioning what has been given to us is somewhat necessary to be able for us to move forward, because we might not be getting the proper information.
Right.
Just because it's there, doesn't mean that it is understood or interpreted in the right way. So I love that idea of questioning those things. So those things stood out for me.
Yeah, it was like I said, it was a good conversation. I really love her energy. So,
all right, well, Soul Questers, we want to let you know that coming soon we will have our second coherence masterclass starting at the beginning of next year. This is a 10-week program intended to help you stabilize your emotion, regain inner authority, clarify direction, reduce mental chaos. We're not promising alignment. We're not selling manifestation. We're not teaching any doctorate. We are just showing functionality and clarity so that you can live your lives. And with that said, we want to thank you for being here today. And remember to
live your life,
shape your culture, and begin within. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you for listening to the ASQ podcast. Remember to lead your life, shape your culture, begin within. Visit us at asqempowerment.com and join the movement.